Hi, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you watched one of my videos before. I actually don't know how many videos I'll have posted when I post this, because I filmed a couple things, but I don't know if I'm going to get it edited and up before this video. So what is this video? This video is a wrap-up of the first quarter of 2025. I'm currently filming this on March 31st, and don't think I'm going to finish any more books today, so I thought I would do a wrap-up of all of my reading so far in 2025. I'm also going to break the rules a little bit and include the last part of 2024. I'm going to include some reading that I did in December, simply because I wasn't really on like my reader game much in 2024, and I started to get back into it into December, and there's only a couple more books, so I just thought it would be fun. Let's jump right into it. I'm tier ranking my books, and these are my categories. Let's start from the top. Top category: book of all time. This is a book of all time. Do not talk to me until you've read this book. This is my literary canon, okay? They're not just like fun books that I loved and enjoyed. These are books that I actually think have so much to say about the world and that everyone should read. Made me want to throw all the pens out of my house because nothing can ever be written as good as this book again. So most of these books are perfect 5 stars. Then second tier, which is still a very good tier, is my new favorites. These books are also 5 stars mostly. It might be between 4.5 to 5-star reads for me. They're just new favorites. I love them so much. They're not quite book of all time, but they are very close. Want on my shelf, these books are books that I would be willing to buy. I would spend my own cold hard cash to purchase these books to have on my shelf, and I either already have or I will, because I read a lot of my books, most of my books, through my library. So I actually don't own many of these, but these are books I liked enough that I think I could reread. They're not quite all-time favorites, but they're still very good. Mostly books 4 and above are here, and there might be some like 3.5s if I just had a silly goofy time with it. So thank you to my library. This is the mid-tier section, and this is just a book that I enjoyed my experience reading it. I'm glad I read it. I probably will not reread it, and I probably will not purchase it, but I am so thankful to my library for having this book so that I could read it. I will say some of these might not have been read via my library. I could have had a physical copy or Kindle. I know I got rid of my Kindle Unlimited, but I could have read it through some other means. The majority of them will be from the actual library. I'm thankful for this book for existing. I enjoyed my time with it, but will I go back to it? Probably not. These might be books that I would be willing to read other works by this author, just mainly like thanks for the memories, but I'm moving on. Next category, will I remember? These books are probably not bad. These books are not bad. It's just a question I have. Will I really remember this book? They're mostly fine books, you know, they weren't necessarily bad per se. They're just books I'm wondering if I'm going to really care about at all in the future. So the second to last category, this is where we start to get into books I did not enjoy reading. Committed a cardinal sin. And the 3 cardinal sins for me in a book is it disappointed me, it bored me, or it annoyed me. That's really it. I guess there's offended me, maybe, but if you're offending me, you're probably going to the worst books category. Committed a cardinal sin. They're not necessarily the worst books ever, but I did not enjoy my time reading them. I don't want to think about these books really ever again, except maybe to roast them. So again, the cardinal sins: bored, disappointed, or annoyed me, and I'll try to tell you which cardinal sin or multiple sins the books that end in this category did for me. And then the last category is worst books. I hated these books, or I DNF'd them. All right, so let's get into it. There's 40-ish 5 books, so I'm probably not going to talk too much in depth about any of them. Some of them I have filmed full reviews and reaction thoughts to them. I don't know if they'll be on my channel yet, but they will be one day, so look forward to that. Subscribe. And I'm mostly moving in chronological order, and we're starting again, like I said, in December, except I lied to you. Joke's on you. We're actually starting in October, because I read the first book in the Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series in October when I was on vacation. I'd been taking a pretty long break from reading anything seriously. These are the books that kind of got me back into reading. And so Assassin's Apprentice was the first book. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these Robin Hobb books, I think I've read 8 of them so far. I feel weird putting them on new favorites because it's just going to be a lot of Robin Hobb, but for the most part, they're all like they're new favorites. They were all 4 stars or above, and the series as a whole is like a new favorite fantasy series. So I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to let's just move them up. So that's Royal Assassin, Assassin's Apprentice, Assassin's Quest, Assassin's Apprentice I read in October, and then I read Royal Assassin, Assassin's Quest in December. Okay, then we have Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This is the first book in her Wolf Hall trilogy, and this one was interesting. I gave it a 4-star originally when I finished it. I've since finished the trilogy and I love it so much, and so this has retroactively become a 5-star read for me. I will be honest, I was very frustrated while reading this book, but it all pays off. The writing is just so good. Wolf Hall, book of all time. It's a book of all time. Go read it. Go read it. This to me is the height of historical fiction. So still in December, Marie Force, Into the Air Tonight, or In the Air Tonight. This was a book I read for a book club that I joined, and it very much made me question joining this book club. It was terrible. I'm convinced that I could film like a 10-hour long video about how bad this book is. No one's read it. You've never read this book. You've never heard of this book. Do not read it. Do you want to know how much I hate this book? I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and then when I canceled my Kindle Unlimited subscription, I was like, shit, I'm going to lose access to In the Air Tonight, and I want to see all of those terrible quotes and feel all of the rage that this book made me feel. So I literally bought the book. I went on bookshop.org to make up for the Kindle Unlimited thing, and I bought this book. One single book. I paid $4 for the shipping too. I paid $21 for this book just so I can have a physical book that I can highlight and write in the margins, what the I hate this book. And the meanest thing I can say about this book is that the author is so far out of her depth. It is laughable. So this book is going into the worst books ever. I did not DNF it because it was the first book that I was reading for this book club, and my sister had been begging me to join this book club. And so I read it for her. It's not a hate read. It was a love read. I finished this book because I loved my sister and I wanted to be part of her book club. It was awful. After that terrible read, I went ahead and reread East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I originally read East of Eden, I think summer before my junior year, or the summer between my junior and senior year. This was like the first adult book I had ever read that was not specifically for class. And so I read it back then, and I wanted to reread it after like probably 10 years since I read it. It's still as good today as it was then, if not better, just because I can appreciate a lot more about it. So of course it's going into book of all time. It's a book of all time. It is an undeniable book of all time. I am really excited to get into all of John Steinbeck's works. That's one of my goals, is to like read at least all of his novels. And then I know there's lots of short stories, and he has a couple of nonfictions as well that I want to get into. Is that it for December? Yes, that is. So now let's get into January, and January's books are down here. So Bring Up the Bodies. We don't need to talk about it too much. Bring Up the Bodies is going straight into a book of all time. It is a book of all time. This is my favorite book in the trilogy. Some of the frustration that I had with Wolf Hall completely disappeared. I feel like Hilary Mantel really sharpened her skills just between these two books, and she made sure to emphasize the characters a bit more. I know she was probably like, these dumb readers can't figure out who I'm talking about, but I appreciated her efforts. I felt her efforts, and the story is so tightly focused on Anne Boleyn's downfall, and it's so compelling. It's my favorite book in the trilogy. And then right after that, I finished the trilogy and I did The Mirror and the Light, and this as well is going into book of all time. It's not my favorite book of the trilogy, and that's simply because the second book is so perfect for me, and the politics in the third book at the beginning were just not as compelling to me. They're important, but they're not as compelling, but this book brings it. It nails the ending. Hilary Mantel does endings so well, which we'll talk about again later in this video. She does endings so well. It's a book of all time, okay? Like, go read these books, okay? And if you want to quit with Wolf Hall, don't. I will not let you quit. I will not let you quit. You have to keep reading, okay? I don't care if you give Wolf Hall 3-star. Finish Bring Up the Body. And I'm telling you, you have to get to the second book before it gets good. No, Wolf Hall is good. It's just Bring Up the Bodies is where you can really see what she's doing, and it's so good. Anyway, moving on. This is not a Wolf Hall video. I gotta keep going. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I listened to this on audio, and it was narrated by Jeanette McCurdy. And this is gonna go to Thank You to My Library. I'm glad I read it. I don't know if I will ever reread it or re-listen to it, and I don't necessarily think I need it on my shelves, but it was a very good experience. I gave it like a 4.5 stars, which I feel weird rating memoirs, especially about some of the topics in this book, because I do think they're very important, and I still will remember many details that Jeanette McCurdy put in here. Then we start the Liveship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings with Ship of Magic. These are just gonna go new favorites. I really liked this trilogy as well. So that includes Ship of Magic, Mad Ship. Mad Ship was my favorite in this trilogy. And then, should I be mean and put Ship of Destiny on my shelf? I kind of am going to do it. I liked Ship of Destiny. I just get very mad about one thing that happens to me at the very end. And I feel like if you've read the books, you probably know what it is. I did not like it. I did not like what happened to a character. And I did not think it served that character well. I think it served the other character very well. It did not serve that character well. And I'm still struggling to figure out why Robin Hobb thought that this was a necessary thing for this character, and I don't get it. So I'm going to be a little petty and put it in Want on my shelf. Okay, next we have The Great State of West Florida by Kent Wascom. I don't think anyone else has ever read this book. I enjoyed it. I am from Florida, and so I saw this book randomly at Barnes & Noble. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of this author. I picked it up. It has a really cool cover. That definitely grabbed my eye, and then I was like, West Florida? I technically live on the west side of Florida, even though that's not really what he's referring to with West Florida. I liked it. I enjoyed my time with this. I bought it physically, and it's a book that I think I'm going to keep on my shelf. I want it on my shelf. Is it the best book ever? No, but did I enjoy my time with it? Yes. And this is my tier ranking. This is mine. All right, next we have Book of Night by Holly Black. I think this is her first adult book, and you could tell. You could tell because it read at some points as young adult. It was not bad. I was just bored by it. And you know what that means? If I was bored by it, it committed a cardinal sin. It committed a cardinal sin. It bored me. It very much bored me. This book is about shadow magic, and I don't mean like shadow magic like Rhysand from Akatar or whatever. I mean your actual shadow. You can do magic with your actual shadow. You can separate it from your body to go steal things, or certain people can. So it was kind of interesting magic. And my favorite character in this book was Vince, but he was not in it enough, and the main character actually annoyed me too. So this book bored me, and then the main character very much annoyed me. I think the sequel is coming out this year in 2025, and if I'm not too busy with other books, I honestly might try the sequel. I don't know why I'm going to do that to myself, but I don't know. I'd be willing to read Holly Black again. I haven't read any of her other stuff, I don't think. I know she has like young adult books that she's really famous for. I won't read her young adult stuff because I think I'm getting enough young adult with her adult novels. Anyway, next is True Biz by Sara Novic, and this as well is going into Committed a Cardinal Sin. This one bored me. Well, and annoyed me again, sorry. I really liked half of this book, the half of this book with the main female character who I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name. I think her name's Charlie. It's something with a C. She is a new student at this deaf school. She's been deaf her entire life, but she had never gone to a specifically deaf school, deaf education. And she learns about deaf culture for the first time, and she learns to find acceptance with other people who are also deaf. And that part was really good. The coming of age focus on her was really good. There's 3 narrators in this book, and one of them is February. I remember her name, even though I hated her. She is like the principal of this school, and I just didn't think I didn't care about her story. It was all about like cheating and infidelity, and I just like did not care. I was like, go back to the kids. And one of the most interesting characters in this book is almost not in it at all. We only get insight into him in like the last like 10 pages, and it's one of the most interesting parts of the book. It's like a shame that Sara Novic didn't focus the book more on him. I think I gave this book 3.5 stars. It's probably like closer to a 3. I didn't hate it. I know I said all the books in this category I hated. I didn't hate it. It did commit a cardinal sin, which was it bored me. So there's one more book I read in January. So you guys remember how I said I love John Steinbeck, and I was wanting to read all of his work because I reread East of Eden, and I think he could be one of my favorite authors of all time. Do you remember when I said that? Do you remember when I said that East of Eden is a book of all time and that I'm like really smart, that I love it? Please do not hate me for this, but I read The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights by John Steinbeck, and I DNF'd it. It is going into the worst book / DNF category. I picked this book up expecting John Steinbeck prose, expecting John Steinbeck characterization, expecting John Steinbeck insight into humanity. And what did I get? I got dozens of knights charging at each other, falling off a horse, tackling a knight off another horse, stealing that man's horse, only to get knocked off that man's horse. I'm not kidding. That happened 30 times in one chapter, and at least 4 or 5 different maidens stabbed themselves on their boyfriend or their father or their brother's sword. Their boyfriend would die, and they'd be so overcome with grief that they would take his sword, fall on it, and kill themselves. Once, okay. Twice, okay. 5 times, I don't care. I don't care that these are like the myths and legends of King Arthur. I think King Arthur should have better storytelling. Am I allowed to say that? Don't pick this book up expecting any of John Steinbeck writing. It is the driest, most boring thing ever. And Merlin isn't even a twink in it. And I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean Merlin's not some like hot twink who has a thing going with King Arthur? I just was not the right audience for this book. It did not give me what I was expecting. But it's on my 25 and 25. And currently I've read 15 of those, and it's the only book I've DNF'd. I have like 100 pages to go, so I might finish this before the end of the year, but please know it will be against my will, and I'm only going to be doing it first off to finish 25 and 25, and second so I can say that I like read another John Steinbeck book. But you can skip this one. If you're a John Steinbeck fan, skip this one. Say you read it and don't read it. No one will know. No one can question you. Okay, so now we're moving into February. Let's go ahead and say They Were Her Property. This is a book I listened to on audio, and it is about white women slave owners in the South and pretty much their economic interests in owning slaves. It was very interesting. It was very informative. My favorite thing about this book is, one, that the author used real life quotes from former slaves who were interviewed, I think it was like 60 years after the Civil War, and she used direct quotes from them to support her conclusions. She would use newspapers, she would use legal documents, but then she would say, and if you think that this is not enough, here are the slaves' direct words. And then I also really liked the way the book was structured, how she broke up the chapters. She focused on how white girls would have been raised up from toddlerhood of already being trained on how to treat slaves, all the way through when they're new brides, to marriage, to divorce or widowhood, to the Civil War, and then after the Civil War and how they lost their slaves and how they would be asking for repayment because they own these slaves. These slaves are not owned by their husbands or their sons or their fathers. They were their slaves. And she made a very good case that white women were much more active in slave ownership than sometimes that we're led to believe. It wasn't just the men. I'm gonna put this on my shelf. It is on my shelf. I listened to it through audiobook through my library, but I also had a physical copy, so I'm gonna keep it on my shelf. The next book here is Capital Dreams by Heather O'Neill. We're going straight to new favorites. I love this book. This is a 4.75, perhaps even 5-star. I'm actually going to put this like in front of all the Robin Hobb stuff. I'm sorry. I've read so much Robin Hobb and it's pretty much all going to go in new favorites. So I'm just going to put that at the back of it. I love The Capital of Dreams. It's about mothers and daughters and war. I've never read a Heather O'Neill book, and I don't think this is her most popular one. I think it was released 2023, but it's so good. I don't hear anyone else talking about it, but I loved it. This is a book that I picked up with actually that Great State of West Florida book. That was my Barnes & Noble trip. I just picked those two up because they sounded the most interesting, and I'm so glad I did. When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, and we are going to break in a new category. We're finally going to put one in this Will I Remember It. It was fine. I enjoyed my time reading it. I think I gave it like 3 or 3.25 stars. I had some issues with it though, and at the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to forget it. It's a book. I read it. I don't really have a lot of feelings about it other than that. Similarly, Will I Remember A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, I think. I think I have a couple harder feelings about this book than When the Reckoning Comes, but it's not enough to put it into Committed a Cardinal Sin. I had a couple more issues with it, mainly how this author just decided to tell us everything instead of showing us everything. And I also thought the relationships between the 3 brides, because this book is about I didn't tell you what When the Reckoning Comes was about, but A Dowry of Blood is about 3 brides of Dracula and how they work through this abusive relationship because Dracula is abusive. The weakest part of this book to me, like I said, is the telling and not the showing. And also the fact that there is no true character development or relationship development between the 3 brides. They mainly, for the most part, get along perfectly fine and love each other right off the bat. It makes 0 sense. There's no tension in this book. Actually, yeah, that's it. That's the biggest issue. There's no tension in this book. And one of the reasons that there's no tension in this book is because the relationships of the 3 brides are not complicated. They're not complex. They're not conflicted. They don't hate each other. They don't have to work through that. I gotta stop talking about this book before I convince myself that it's actually lower than Will I Remember It, because I think I will remember it, and I think I will remember it for the wrong reasons. And I know a lot of people love this book, and the writing is not terrible. It's not that bad. I actually really enjoyed the writing in the first half, and then I think it degraded, or at least I got used to it, so I wasn't as mesmerized by it in the later half, and that's when I really started to be like, anyway. Briefly, When the Reckoning Comes is about a Black woman who goes back to her hometown because her white best friend is getting married at the town's plantation. That setup for the book is so interesting and intriguing. I just have some issues about the reckoning. So that's all I'll say. Okay, then I read My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and it's going straight up to a book of all time. I love My Dark Vanessa. I'm obsessed with My Dark Vanessa. Vanessa, the main character of this book, is my dark Vanessa, okay? If any of you say crap about her, I will fight you. If you're gonna say, she's such a mean person, yeah, and what about it? Yeah, and she deserves it. Yeah, and that's the point of the book. The point of the book is that she is kind of a terrible, mean person. Go away. Anyway, you should read this book. I think that this is a book that should be taught in schools. I think if you are old enough to be groomed, then you are old enough to read about the consequences of grooming. And I think it's a great way to prepare not just girls, but all individuals to learning the warning signs of grooming. I know some people would disagree with me and say that this book is way too graphic and explicit to be taught in schools. And I am sensitive to that because it is pretty graphic. But I think it's very important, and I think it should be taught in schools, like I said. And I think the writing is good enough that it could be. Next, Fool's Errands. So this is another Robin Hobb book. This one is the start of the Tawny Man trilogy, which is the last trilogy that I read. So I started it in February, and then I finished it in March. So I'll just put Golden Fool, and Fool's Fate. For the most part, I really enjoyed this trilogy a lot. I can't really rank all these trilogies yet. I don't know where they really stand. I will say, biggest thing that stands out to me about this trilogy on Fool's Fate is that Fool's Fate has like 6 different endings, and it dragged. The structure of Fool's Fate is truly one of the most baffling book structures I've ever read in my entire life. Plot, climax, and the big action climax happens 66% of the way through the book. And then the last third, which is hundreds of pages, because this book is very long. This book is like 700 pages. The last third is all the emotional climax. But even then, the emotional climax happens at 72% of the way through the book. I don't know, maybe 75% of the way through the book. So you still have another 25% wrap things up. And that's the thing, like Robin Hobb's books are very much focused on the characters. So that's why the action climax doesn't necessarily mean the end of the book in the arc, because a lot of it is about the characters and their relationships. But it was very baffling. When I'm stopping to consider the structure of a book, I don't do that very often. I'm not that analytical or critical. You know that it's noticeable enough. But like I said, I still loved it. I still loved it. But that's the thing that stands out to me most about this trilogy. Next, A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Well, I remember it. It was not bad. I am probably going to read the second one. It was just overhyped for me. And it's so short that I just think it really struggles to achieve everything that it wants to achieve. Kala by Colin Walsh. I'm going to say thank you to my library. I enjoyed reading this. This is a mystery, kind of literary mystery, where 3 childhood friends converge back on their hometown 20 years after, or 15 years after one of their best friends went missing in high school. And as soon as they kind of converge, of course, her body is found, and it is very obvious that she was murdered. So this kind of kicks back up all of the stuff that went on 15 years ago. And yeah, I don't read a lot of mystery, so it's hard for me to judge it as a mystery book, but I was very interested in the writing and the quality of writing. I thought it was very good. So I would recommend it. But I would recommend just getting it at your library. You don't need to buy it or anything. I don't think it's a book I'll ever reread, but there are things that really stand out to me about it, and I enjoyed my time with it. City of Nightbirds by Julia Kim. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Committed a cardinal sin. Boring. Boring, 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 boring. This is the second book that I had to read for my book club. It's not looking great for this book club. Boring. I hated it. I didn't hate it. It's not a bad book. It's just boring. It's just so incredibly boring that it's almost insane. And then we have Immortal Dark by Tigris Gurma. Worst books. I DNF'd it. I DNF'd it 100 pages in, 25% in. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. You cannot make me read this book anymore. Bad. The writing, bad. The world building, bad. The characters, annoying. And I stopped it before I got really heated about it. So I can't really tell you much. I only read 100 pages, but that was enough for me. I would be willing to read another book by Tigris. Maybe not in this world, but maybe in like 5 years, if she puts something else out, I would be interested to read it, because there were flashes of good writing, I thought. I just think it was the character and the plot and the world building that really suffered in this book. And those are things that can be really worked on and improved in later books that she does. Next, we have To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monquill Blackgoose. So I read this one soon after I read Immortal Dark, and both of these are young adult books. And To Shape a Dragon's Breath is so good. It is definitely one on my shelf. I've not read Fourth Wing, but I would say that To Shape a Dragon's Breath is how you do Dragon School right. It is anti-colonial, it is LGBTQ friendly, it's got some bi rep, it's got some autism rep, and it's really good for a young adult. The writing it reads slightly young adult, but not bad. I thought it was good. Okay, so now moving on. Still in February, but we have Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. This was a 5-star read for me, and I'm putting this straight up into new favorites. I very much enjoyed my time with this. It worked for me. This is a book that I can totally see just like not working for some people. I also think this book is something, if you're reading it at the right time and right place, it's going to work for you. And it worked for me. I read it at the right time, right place. I love Piranesi, like the character Piranesi, and I also love that Susanna Clarke was like, stop trying to figure this book out. Stop trying to figure out life. You're too stupid for that. Just read the book and I'll explain everything you need to know. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Halpert. This is a mystery. This was a book that was recommended to me by a friend in a Discord group. I would not have read this book otherwise, but I'm saying thank you to my library for having this book for me to read. I enjoyed my time. I might try more Janice Halpert books. The format of this book is really interesting. It's all done through text messages and emails and transcriptions of interviews. So there's a lot kind of hidden from the reader, which I didn't quite like, because the character solves the mystery 2/3 of the way through the book and then doesn't reveal enough to the reader to figure some of the stuff out. So that was a little annoying, but the ending was kind of fun, and yeah, it was a good time. Okay, now we're getting into the books I read in March, and I started March off so strong with Beloved by Toni Morrison, and I should punk you guys out. I should really punk you guys out right now and put this in like, will I remember it? No, it is a book of all time. Perhaps the book of all time? I don't know. Good question. It's so good. This is a reread actually, because I read this book in high school, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is actually reread assigned reading that I had in high school to see if I still like it, because there were some books that I really enjoyed, or to see if I can appreciate it better now. And Beloved is definitely one, like, I could understand that what it was saying was important when I read this, I think in like 11th grade, but could I say that I enjoyed it? Probably not. But when I was rereading it this time, I absolutely loved it. It is so good. If I think about it for too long, I will get emotional. I will start to cry, because Paul D and Setha are like OTP. If you get it, you get it. I don't know how to say it. This book is so brilliant on so many levels. Again, book of all time is like these books that make you want to throw out your pens, because you're like, I can never write anything this good. Why try? Why even read another book? Because this is the epitome. This is the height. And Beloved is that to like the 10th degree. Toni Morrison is such a genius. This is the only Toni Morrison I've read so far. I want to read like all of her backlog and catalog. But yeah, it's very good. And I want to film a video going over this book more, although I probably will not do it justice. It's very good. Did I say yet that it's very good? Next, I read Icebreaker. Not that Icebreaker. This Icebreaker is by A.L. Grazadari. I don't think I'm saying that last name right, but it is also a hockey romance, but it's a gay hockey romance. They are enemies because they're both trying to be the first draft pick in the NHL, and they go to the same school, and they've kind of known about each other but never really like interacted, and it was cute. I think I put this on Thank You to My Library. I don't read a lot of romance, and this is actually technically young adult romance, so I think it's young adult romance, or it's like new adult maybe. There's no sex scenes in this. There's no smut or anything. It's just very cute, and like I said, it's a gay romance. And if you want to read a hockey romance, again, I haven't read the other Icebreaker book by, I think it's Hannah Grace, but I would recommend this one. Then I read Bunny by Mona Awad. I'm sad to do this, but it's going to go in Committed a Cardinal Sin, in that it disappointed me. This book is not bad. I just did not like it. Mona Awad, I can see, is a very talented writer. This book just did not work for me. I don't think it's simply because I didn't get it. I think I saw what she was trying to do. I think I can see why it works for a lot of people, but for me, it just did not work. I didn't hate it. I did give it a 2 stars though, so maybe I did hate it. I don't know. Don't come for me for this. At the end of the day, I just don't think weird girl fiction is it for me. I need more than just, this girl is so weird. And okay, it's 2025. I'm a little bit over extended metaphors and analogies for book writing in books. I'm just over it, okay? Like, this book kind of annoyed me with that, because I get it. Writing is hard. I cannot write. I could not write, buddy. All right? I get it that it's hard, and I'm not dismissing that. But I also don't give a damn. Stop crying to me about how hard your profession is. I don't want to hear it. Unless you're Toni Morrison, or you're John Steinbeck, or you're an author that I respect. I do respect her. I do respect Mona Awad. I want to make that very clear. I just don't want to hear about kill your darlings. Stop. I'm sorry. I'm being a little petty in this. And I don't want to be mean. So I'm going to move on. You Should Be So Lucky by Kat Sebastian. So this is a book that, I think her name's Kate Can Read. I think I saw her recommend this because she was ranking books based on how much they surprised her or disappointed her. And she said this was like in her top tier. This is another gay sports romance. Well, one of the men is a baseball player and the other is a reporter. And it was cute. If you like romance, I would recommend this. I don't love romance, so I can't really rate it higher than Thank You to My Library. I think I gave it a 3 stars. The only thing I would say about this book is it's set in the 1960s. And listen, I don't know if it's just because maybe the 1960s aren't that different from today, but I didn't feel like I learned a lot about the 60s, which I would have liked to have felt after reading a historical fiction romance. All the historical fiction, if I feel like I'm not learning anything from it, what's the point? I think the setting was really only used when it was coming to how the 2 men have to be very much in the closet because of attitudes during the 60s. And other than that, I was like, it's okay. The next book I read was Kei Miller's Things I Have Withheld. So this I read for a book club, not the book club I was talking about before. My company, they started a DEI book club, so I joined, and this was the first pick. And this was a series of essays. So this is the first time I've read a collection of essays, probably ever. And Kei Miller is a poet. He is a Black Jamaican gay man. And he talks about the book title, Things I Have Withheld, is mainly about investigating what are the things that I have not said or that other people have not said to me because of my body. So he knows, he's like, I'm a very imposing Black man with dreadlocks, and I can just feel the unspoken words from others or the way that I have to hold back certain words. And it was a very interesting read, and it was a great discussion on our book club. This is going to be Want on My Shelf. I do not own this. I listened to this on audiobook, and it was narrated by Kei Miller, which I recommend listening to because just his cadence with the words, I just think having the author narrate it added a lot to it. And like I said, he's a poet and he's used to performing his poetry and reading out his words, so he was a very good narrator. Next, we have Act of Oblivion by Robert Harris. This is the Robert Harris who wrote Conclave and a bunch of other books, but mainly you might know Conclave because of the movie Conclave, and I watched Conclave and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I should read a book by him. Well, then randomly I was on Kindle Unlimited. I know, I already canceled it. You don't need to get mad at me. And I just saw this Act of Oblivion randomly, and I didn't realize this was the same Robert Harris. And this book is about after the English Civil War, where the English cut the head off of King Charles I, his son actually comes back into power. So there's kind of like a reactionary government where the monarchy is reinstated and everyone gets a general pardon, except, which they call the Act of Oblivion, except for the men who signed the king's death warrant. And so 2 men escape England and they come over to America, and it's kind of like this long drawn out manhunt for these 2 men who they need to capture so that they can kill them. And all the other men who signed the death warrant, there's 50 of them, all in some way or another are accounted for. So it just follows these 2 men in America trying to survive and outrun and the man chasing them. The 2 men are real. Obviously, they're fictionalized. The man chasing them, I think, is a kind of fictionalized character. I don't think that there was a lot of evidence that there was a singular man who was in charge of this hunt. So that was a character that Robert Harris created. And then going back to, I think historical fiction should teach me something. This taught me a lot. I mean, I already knew, but I feel like this book was very, very good at demonstrating how important religion was to people at this time, and how much your religion dictated your life and who you might find friendship with and kinship with and kindness from. It all kind of goes back to your religion. So that was very interesting. And this is going on my shelf. I would like to own this book one day and reread it. I think I could. Next, I read James by Percival Everett. And James is going on my shelf as well. I really, really, really enjoyed reading this book. It's probably not for me like a new all-time favorite. I had some like slight quibbles with it, but I think I give it 4.5 stars. It is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of Jim, the slave, who in this book he calls himself James. From my understanding, because I have not read Huckleberry Finn, it changes several plots, especially near the end, so I won't like get into it too much, but I really enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to read this book for months, and it was finally available at my library. This book is definitely a book that should be taught in schools. I can totally see this book being in the curriculum, and I think it's gonna happen. I haven't read his other stuff, but I want to. And after reading James, I was like, okay, I need to get into like Erasure and The Trees, I think. And I think he has at least one more that's pretty popular or relatively well known critically. Then I read A Land Remembered by Patrick D. Smith, and this is set in 1858 to 1968 in Florida. It's just about the Florida pioneer and this kind of fictionalized family following 3 generations of them through this 100 years, so we can see how Florida, specifically the landscape, the land, is changed and destroyed, and it has a very interesting kind of theme. This book was recommended to me by one of my coworkers, and I was like not that excited to read it originally, but I enjoyed my time. I listened to it on audiobook, and I thought it was pretty good. Not perfect, but it's a book I want on my shelf. I think it'd be really fun to have a little Florida section on my bookshelves with The Great State of West Florida, which I currently own, and then A Land Remembered, and then just other books that I pick up so I can learn more history about Florida. I learned a lot in A Land Remembered. It has several Seminole characters, which I thought was relatively good depiction of them. I'm not an expert in that. I thought the reciprocal relationship between family and then the Seminole people who were still in Florida at the time, because they kind of came back from the Trail of Tears, was very well done. Okay, then I promised you she would come back, and I bet you guys thought that she was just done with this Wolf Hall trilogy. No. A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel, straight up to book of all time. This is more historical fiction. This time she said it talking about the French Revolution, and it follows 3 men, Maximilien Robespierre, Camille Desmoulins, and George Jacques Danton. And I absolutely love this book. I go feral for this book. This book is so funny. It is 60% French Revolution, beheadings, politics, so much politics, speeches, lawyering. It's 60% that. And then it's 40% throuple drama and slice of life hilarity. It's so good. I know like Wolf Hall has a lot of slice of life. Some of that was like too much for me. It didn't work, but it works for me so extremely well in A Place of Greater Safety. Camille is my baby girl. I love him. I don't know if I'm going to post this video, but I did a whole video going over it, and I love A Place of Greater Safety so much. It's so good. I would almost recommend starting with A Place of Greater Safety if you've never read Hilary Mantel before and you kind of like want to try. I think it's an easier entry point into her writing style. Extremely good historical fiction. And she made me care and love for characters that have been dead for 230 years. Endings, she does endings so well. It makes me want to cry. And I did cry, so. Next, I read Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. And you know what? I'm going to say thank you to my library. I enjoyed my time with it. I think I gave this a 3.5 stars. Some of the things worked really well for me. Some of the things didn't. Particularly the end. It was anticlimactic, which I think was the point. It's still anticlimactic, okay? It's still, I was expecting something and I got something else, and I know the thing that you gave me is important to the theme of the book, but also you were building up to something that you made me expect, and I don't like it when authors are like, ha ha ha, joke's on you. And I'm like, no, you promised me something that you're not delivering on, so the joke is not on me. Anyway, the writing was very good though. I would be interested to read more Rachel Kushner. I just don't think I need to reread Creation Lake. I did think halfway through the book, I was like, ooh, this is going to be a book that I'm going to want to purchase because I read it through my library. But then by the end, I was like, nah, I'm good. These last 3 books I read the last weekend in March, so they're fresh in my mind. I read Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I'm going to put this in Want on my shelf, and I do have this on my shelf. This is a book that I purchased actually through Book Outlet a couple months ago, and I very much enjoyed my time with this. This is the first Virginia Woolf I've ever read. I've never even read any of her essays or anything like that. Some of my favorite passages I can ever remember. Very good writing, very compelling. I was in there. Some of these characters I loved. I loved Septimus. He was my favorite character. And then other times, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You've lost me. I don't care. So sometimes the writing really had me. And I would say most of the time the writing had me. I'll be very clear. But there were some times where she just lost me a bit too much with all the metaphors and the analogies. But I really liked it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't know, 4.25, 4.5 stars. It's not a new favorite for me, but it's very good. Then we have The House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Committed a cardinal sin. It disappointed me and it annoyed me. The writing in this is hit and miss. He was working for a very specific tone and he achieved that tone, but in achieving the tone that he wanted, he annoyed me. And it was very small things, but something that was really annoying is the main character in this, sorry, I should explain what this book is about, but I think everyone knows it's The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's one of like the most popular books in the past 5 years. Although I'm late to the party, I read it for the first time in 2025. It's about a social worker for children who goes to an orphanage, and the orphanage is for magical children because magical children exist in this world, magical creatures exist in this world, and he is there to observe the orphanage to decide if it should stay open or not, and because the kids at this orphanage are particularly magical or particularly special in some way. So the main character, which I already kind of forgot his name, I literally finished the book like 2 days ago. What is his stupid name? Steve? No. Steve? Linus. His name is Linus. There was a tendency, right, where it would be Linus is like talking to his cat and his cat scratched him or whatever, and Linus would be like, you better not scratch me because I'm not going to feed you any food anymore. And then the next sentence would be, he was of course lying. He fed the cat 2 scoops of kibble. And I'm like, why are you telling me that he was obviously lying if I can see that he was obviously lying? And again, once or twice it'd be fine, but that was the thing of the entire book. This is a very relatable thing to do, to say one thing, right? And then do the other thing. How many times are we like, I want to quit my job as we're getting into the car to drive to work? You don't need to tell me that their thoughts are the exact opposite of what they're saying, especially when you have an action right after that thought showing them that they're actually doing the opposite thing. Okay? He's creating emotional distance. He's trying to create emotional distance, not just between him and his cat, but he did it with the orphanage owner and the children and stuff. He would have a thought where he's like, I do not care about these children. But he knew deep down that that was a lie as he put the blanket over the kid. You don't need to tell us that he knew it was a lie. we know it's a lie because we can see that he's putting the blanket over the child that he just said he doesn't care about. That's something he's just telling himself so he can try to pretend that there's more emotional distance between him and these children than there is. This is a very small thing to get caught up on, but it gives you an example of just some of the small issues that just piled up and piled up and piled up for this book. And like I said, mostly it disappointed me because it was so hyped up and everyone was like, it's so good, it's so cozy. And maybe I just read it at the wrong time. I don't know if I just like don't like cozy things anymore. I don't know. I think I gave it like a 2.5 stars. Anyway, so the last book I finished with in March, which was a good kind of one to get back on track because I didn't like the House in the Cerulean Sea, was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. And this is another book that's gotten popular the past year. It was originally published, I think, in like 1994 in French, and it was translated the past couple of years, I believe, into English. And I heard it all over BookTube and Bookstagram. It is about a group of 40 women who are in this bunker, and they don't know why they're in this bunker, but it's just the 40 of them. They're alone, except for the guards that patrol the area, and there's no interaction. They never talk to them, pretty much. The guards kind of communicate what they want the women to do via snaps of their whip. And our main character, our POV, has been in this bunker since she was a young child. She remembers no life before this. And the other women are older than her, and so some of them remember their husbands and their children, that they had lives before these. But no one knows what really happened to make them stuck in this prison. And then one day, ... I won't spoil the rest, but it's a very short book. It's only 177 pages. I read this in 4 hours. I sat outside and I just read this on my patio, and it was very, very good. I very much enjoyed this book. This is a book that I think I could come back to multiple times and find many new things that I missed the first time. I really liked the way the book was. It's a very sad book, but even at its saddest and its most desolate, there's something that Jacqueline does that keeps hope alive somehow. There's just something that she uses, and I don't really know what. I think she finds a new way to do it every time, but she has a way of still keeping the audience with her without having us fully succumb to the despair that the characters are succumbing to. And so it's very good, and it's going into new favorites. It might be a book of all time. Maybe upon second or third reread, it could be a book of all time for me. But yeah, so that's it. This is my overview of my tier ranking. So I've got 3 books in the worst book / DNF'd, 5 books in committed a cardinal sin, bored, disappointed, or annoyed me, 3 books in Will I Remember It, 6 books in Thank You to My Library, I enjoyed my time, and then most of my books were in the top 3 categories: books I would like to own so I can reread, new favorites, and then books of all time. So I think that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for sticking around if you stuck around for it all. I don't know if I'm going to do monthly wrap-ups ever. If I get better at filming these videos and editing them and uploading them, I might, but I like this idea of like quarterly check-ins and rankings, and I'm going to try to keep these categories for the most part, and maybe at the year-end wrap-up, some of these books will have moved. I can totally see how a book that was maybe a new favorite, maybe it dropped down to a one on my shelf, or maybe it moved up upon further reflection or a second reread to a book of all time. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.